Hey there, welcome back to my channel. It's the Spiritual Enchantress here. Today I wanted to talk about spiritual awakening or self-development when you think your spouse isn't catching up with you, isn't progressing with you, or is holding you back. So if that's interesting to you, let's get started with this video. First of all, I want to say I definitely resonate with this feeling. I seen this question posted the other day in a self-development Facebook group. Someone said, "What if it's my spouse that's negative and doesn't want me to progress?" Now, you might not like the answer I have for you here because, in my personal experience, I went through that stage. I felt that exact same way that person who posted that question in there felt. I started getting really into self development because I wanted to make more money. I was totally unfulfilled in my job, and I felt really kind of tied in a bind of what my options were because I didn't want to give up the bond I had with my son in order to work like super long hours or 6 days a week and have him in daycare all the time. I wanted to be there for him a decent amount of the time and have a relationship with him and be a really strong figure in his life, but I still wanted to make money. So that's what triggered my self development journey. And what ended up happening was a lot of things started changing that had nothing to do with money. And I didn't expect that to happen. A lot of traumas and things that I had repressed from childhood started to come up. So even though I was healing it, you got to feel it to heal it. It was causing a lot of tension and stress in my marriage. My husband and I had literally just got married when I came across this course by Bob Proctor. We were together for 10 years before we got married, but he had this irrational fear that I was going to change after we got married. And then lo and behold, I started to change a lot because I started doing this work. And I think it was a fluke. I don't think it had anything to do with us getting married, but he started to like panic because I was changing so much. So, and he wasn't doing this work. So when he was hearing these different thoughts about how your thoughts influence your actions and how I can change my reality with the power of my thoughts and meditating and writing in my gratitude journal and doing all these practices, I think he thought I had lost my mind at first. So, needless to say, when I would go to him with a lot of the ideas that I had, um, he wasn't overly supportive. And I actually ended up coming across a book called Dodging Energy Vampires. And at the time, because I was definitely not where I am today on my self development journey, I actually convinced myself that he was a narcissist and I was the poor little empath that was getting taken advantage of. Now, so this is why I'm saying I totally understand the feeling like someone else is the problem. They're holding me back, blah, 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 blah. Now, I will tell you going forward, I did decide to just keep focusing on my development. And because every time I would like suggest that someone else change, like suggest that he change or that there was something wrong with him or that he needed to do work, it caused a lot of friction. So, what worked the best for me and totally changed my life was just putting my head down and focusing on me, doing the practices that made me feel good, continuing to read books on self development, continuing to take courses, continuing to go to yoga every day. I started meditating for 5 minutes a day. I now meditate for 20 minutes a day. I worked my way up and I would write in my gratitude journal every single morning. Now, over time, these practices stacking up, sorry, excuse me, and all the new information I was taking in from these different self development books and actually applying them in my life started to change my behavior. It started to make me feel more worthy and more lovable and more confident in myself. And what I began realizing as my confidence increased and as I began to take action in my life was that it was never him that was holding me back. It was never him that was causing the fights. It was my own insecurities. It was my own feelings of unworthiness. It was my own feelings of not being lovable that I had internalized from childhood that would come up, rear their ugly head, and start on the attack every time that somebody outside of me would question my choices or would question my behavior. Because instead of actually looking at the choices or the behavior objectively and deciding if that was my truth or if I was being triggered, I just would automatically say, they did this to me. They made me feel this way. They made me act out or whatever. I wasn't taking responsibility for myself in the situation. And it definitely wasn't an overnight thing. I've been that time that I started really diving deep into self-development, I'd already been kind of aware of it and practicing it to some extent before that, but when I really decided to like change my life and that I was going to dedicate myself to bettering my own life was 3 years ago. And the changes were very slow at first and they've been getting dramatically better. And today, my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my son, my relationship with the members of my family are like 1,000 times better. I hardly ever get into fights with them, and I used to always get into fights with everybody. I was like the trigger queen. You know, at the fair, like the old style fair where they have that big tower with the bell at the top, and then the people come in, they smack it with a hammer and see how high they can get it up. That was me. It was like I had this paddle on me, and I felt like all of my family were coming up with their mallets and taking shots to see how worked up I could get. And I would get worked up. It's like, it's hilarious. It's like you think that you would want to prove them wrong by showing them you're not crazy. But if someone called me crazy, I would unleash a level of crazy they'd never seen before. And then it's like, I don't even have a foot to stand on to prove them wrong. I can't say, well, I'm not crazy now because I just showed that I actually am. And that's why I really wanted to share this with anybody who is in that kind of beginning transition stage where you feel like it's really hard to change because nobody supports me and everyone thinks I'm crazy and no one understands or wants to even talk to me about these new ideas that I'm learning and these new things that I'm trying to implement in my life. I totally get it. It's really quite actually a lonely road at first. What my suggestion would be, don't go it alone like I did. It's much harder and much longer road if you do that. You know, find support groups, find a community of like-minded people that you can immerse yourself in and have these sorts of discussions with without feeling like attacked or triggered. I felt going to yoga and becoming a part of that community was very helpful to me on my journey. And then taking yoga teacher training, it just like amplified it to the next level, finding other people who are often empathetic and very kind and nurturing and caring that have felt like powerless and not enough in their life, and how they overcame certain adversities and traumas in their life using tools like yoga, breath work, meditation, and journaling to overcome some of these things. So I want to end this off with some actual advice for you other than me just rambling about my own life. Like I said, you have to do the work on yourself. You have to stop looking at others and blaming them. Now, obviously, there's some situations where this isn't true. If you were with like a real class A narcissist, they're not going to change even if you change, in which case you might need to evaluate that relationship and leave. But a lot of the times when we categorize people as not good enough or evil or holding you back, you can't really make that perception or that diagnosis until you've got your house in order. So here's some things you can do to start getting your house in order. Number one, make a full commitment to yourself to do whatever you have to buy whatever books you have to, whatever courses you have to do whatever tools it takes to get yourself to the level that you're not being constantly triggered by the outside world. Because that intention, that dedication is the number one tool. If you don't have that and you don't have that drive and you don't have that deeper why down inside of you driving you to be better, mine was that I didn't want to be dependent on anybody. I wanted to have financial independence in my life, and that sparked like all of my relationships to change. Find out what your why is and make a commitment to completing it. Number two, I do yoga, but working out of any sort, moving your body and moving the energy in your body is super important. If you want to feel the best version of yourself, confident, you don't have to be a size 2. You don't have to look like an Instagram model. That's not the point. It's not about looking a different way. It's about feeling a different way. When you move your body, you move energy and you express energy out. So if you don't want to repress a bunch of energy, and our emotions are stored in our energy as well, then you need to move your body in whatever way is aligned to you and get that energy out of your body. You know, for some people, running is something that makes them feel really high, and that's perfect for them. It could be swimming, it could be boxing, it could be going to the gym and lifting weights. For me, it's yoga, it could be dancing. So find your preferred method of movement and do it. And I'm going to say 3 is meditation. When I started, I got a meditation app on my phone, and I just started doing little basic 5-minute guided meditations every night. And I usually actually fell asleep before the meditation was over. And I just sort of started advancing from there. I now do 20 minutes a day, which I find is doable. I know a lot of people do more than that, but I find that just works well for me, and it helps calm my mind, and I get a lot of really insightful, intuitive ideas when I do that as well. And then number 4, one of the things I've been doing since I really committed to this is writing in a gratitude journal every day. So, what is a gratitude journal and how do you write a gratitude journal? So, unlike just a regular journaling exercise where you write what happened in your day or how you're feeling, which that can be a very valuable tool as well, what I do is I write what I'm grateful for that I have right now. I start off with what I already have that I'm grateful for. It's always like family, my husband, my son, um, my house, like having running water, that kind of stuff. And then my last half is things that I desire for myself, things that I want to step into. For instance, if you wanted a certain income, you could say, I'm so happy and grateful now that I make $100,000 each year doing tattoos or whatever. You want to get specific about what it is you desire. I'm so happy and grateful now that I bought a $500,000 property. I'm so happy and grateful now that I do what I love each day. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have amazing clients who I get to impact their life. Whatever it is to you, and then always, always stick into those gratitude, because when we're grateful, we're taking our mind off of what's wrong. What I did actually for the first year, which really helped me with my husband, is every time he would trigger me, and I'm not saying, I hate saying he triggered me because he didn't really do anything. I allowed myself to be triggered. I allowed certain emotions to come up and my insecurities to come up. But I would go and write 5 things I was grateful for about him so that I could focus on what it was I loved about him instead of, the stupid things like his socks being on my couch all the time. He always takes his socks off. It still bothers me, but it doesn't get me so upset anymore. So those are some action steps for you. I really wanted to share this because I really hate seeing other people fall prey to the outside world, and this life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. And the sooner you realize that, the more powerful you become. So go out, step into your